What's going on, guys? I'm Dan, D-Speed Shop. Today we're gonna have a fun one, or you might hate it. I'm not gonna lie, it depends on what side of the fence you're on. We're gonna start chopping up this perfectly good, low mile, it's a piece of junk, 4-door Biscayne base model that sat for 20 years. Anyway, now I want to turn it into a 2-door post. Just move that post like there. And replace it with these doors. Now, I have done a couple of 2-door swaps. Well, I guess I've done like 3 or 4 of them on Tri-5 Chevys. You guys seem to love that. And the most common question I get, other than YouTube stuff, is what other cars can you 4-door swap? I don't have the answers. But typically, if the roof line and the wheelbase are shared between a 2-door, 4-door wagon, whatever it may be, you can probably turn it into a post car by simply pushing the post back and replacing or extending the front door. Now, I did a bunch of research on this. I hadn't seen anybody do a 4-door to 2-door swap on a full-size Chevy. So I took a bunch of pictures on the internet, kind of put them side by side and top and bottom, and I think I got my phone. Maybe I can put one up here if I remember when I'm editing the video. And I thought, looks pretty close. Talked to the sheet metal guy. He says, yeah, it's all the same, so we're gonna go for it. This is slightly different than, same concept, but the way we're gonna accomplish it is different than a Tri-5 Chevy. The post is a little bit different. It has kind of a funny shape there. I wonder if the doors are even the same. The doors are definitely different, so we're definitely going to do some messing around there with the post. You can see how this door kind of has a curve in, and obviously the post does that as well. And then this one's more up and down. So that will require some modification. I don't know what we're going to do just yet, but I'm pretty much committed. Realistically, the post just has to probably be straight versus lean back at the bottom there. Now up top, usually you can kind of see a bit of a seam, which is probably right there. But in this situation, I think we might just cut the post the whole way across. And same at the bottom, take all that out and we'll end up modifying the post, whatever we got to do. So once we have the post set, then we can decide whatever we want to do with the back section. So I think step 1 is going to be getting the door hung, the posts out. So we have to get the front and back doors off, and hopefully they come off easy. Oh yeah, they're nuts and bolts versus, oof, I hate these. Screws never go well, but I'll spray a little WD-40. We'll see if we can get these front and back doors off. Okay, so we got the front door off. Now, seeing as I've never done this before, and I haven't found another guy that has, I want to make sure the door bolts on. It looks like it's the same. The striker is definitely in a different location, which is fine. We can move that. But I want to make sure the door is going to fit here. I tried getting these off and ended up breaking my bit with my little hammer thing and the impact, and we had heat, and it was not going well. So I think I'm just going to zip cut those off. Because ultimately it's irrelevant. We're never going to use that again. At least I'm not using it again. Until it all goes to shit and I have to weld that back together. But we have a welder. And they're just hinges. We can find hinges. So that's the plan. We're going to go ahead and put this back on. Just a couple of bolts. Make sure it does fit somewhat. And then, kind of keep jamming. Okay, so I got the door hung just with 2 bolts. Obviously it's not perfect. But I just did a quick look. The eyeball looks like it should go okay. We are, ½ inch below the molding line, so you got to deal with that. One thing I did is just measured the window opening, which was 16 inches, and I measured the window opening of the 4-door. It was also 16 inches. I then wrapped the tape measure kind of around the door body itself, and we're like 27.5 or so, and kind of the same on that. So the doors are physically about the same size, so that should be okay. Obviously the hinges and all that are the same, so I think it's enough we can carry on. So it's time to hack out these back hinges on the doors, which is going to be a bit ugly, but I kind of don't see another way around it. By the time I heat up and screw around, you know, mess with all these bolts and whatnot, and the door itself is also screws. I could try taking that out, I guess, but I just don't see it going well for me. So I'll see when I get the zip disc out. So I got the door on there. The back door is obviously off. Now, this is, I mean, I don't want to say point of no return because there's always a welder. This actually top hinge was aluminum. So when I cut through that, that'd be a little tricky to weld back together, but hey. I took off the sill plates, and actually as you take them off, you can see right there. So we're gonna cut there, cross there, and then back up in that seam. At the top, I'm just gonna cut straight across. And then whatever I gotta do in there is what I gotta do. Hopefully I'll try and avoid getting into the headliner. I'll probably cut across as well in there. It's kinda hard to see, but. And get this post right out of this thing. Hopefully it doesn't fall in half. I'm pretty confident. Then, the post is definitely gonna be a little bit screwing around. So it is definitely at an angle back, and we need to make it more vertical, obviously. But in the other cars, I would just hinge it. So I'll have to actually steal the hinge off the 4-door, I guess. This one doesn't have it. I would literally hinge the door to the post, close the whole mess, and that's where you're going to be welding. So we'll see. Really, I could probably cut a lot. You know, I'm going to think to myself while I'm grinding. That's always the best. In the shower and while I'm grinding, that's how I do my best thinking. Okay, well the post has been removed. Now, actually, check out how good this door gap is. I had to do a little screwing around with a couple of shims, but overall, that's pretty darn good. The front is down just a hair from the body line, so we can modify that, but that's kind of irrelevant. We can do that anytime. Now, the real concern is going to be this post obviously has to go back in, or something like this post has to go back in. But if you can come around here for a second. When the post goes up and down where it wants to be, it's leaning back from where the door is. So obviously this post is in no way, shape, or form the same as the door. So we have two options. And I'm gonna weigh them out. I don't know what the best is to be. Either we can change the back of this door at the back of that door, I should say, and hopefully that won't interfere with the window. That is one step. But this post may have to be all manipulated at the top anyways to fit up in here. So because on a 2-door post, the door has a bit of a slant back, and on the 4-door, it's a little bit more straight up and down. Especially, you see the door is just straight up and down. Whereas this one, you've got a rounded door followed by a lean back post. So it's a little bit of manipulation. So I think what I'm gonna do is we're gonna take a break from the post, and the next thing I'm gonna do, it's a nice day out, I'm gonna get my fender stand, and we're gonna strip this door. So we're gonna skin the door. So we're gonna take the outside skin away from the inside structure and cut this top piece of the window frame out. And then we could probably start kind of fitting in the window frame and just kind of setting everything beside and see kind of what it's going to look like, give it a roundabout shape. And then we can always put the door post in afterwards, because we have to do all sorts of inside structure and whatnot. But yeah, it's actually going pretty smoothly. It's not bad for, I don't know, 2-3 hours, whatever we're into it. So I'll get set up outside and we'll skin this door. Okay, so I've started taking this door apart. Now I took the inner structure out and I left, the way I took it out was I left the big gap so it's easy to weld to, because once it's in the car, this is all that'll be sticking out, and then the front we'll have to kind of modify. The door panel is actually in decent shape, so we can probably keep it and we'll end up just shortening it, so that'll be pretty good. And I got the glass out because that's important. I don't know how I'm gonna shorten the glass 6 inches, but well, we'll see what happens. It may be plexiglass. Now, the next thing we're gonna do is this whole front section of the door has to be eliminated. So I'll probably just cut right around here, same with right around there. We'll then cut somewhere up in this section, because the back is all we're gonna need, because all the shortening is gonna come out on the front side of the back door. So essentially the back door is gonna be the quarter panel patch, and it's all gonna be obviously cut to match and stuff here, and up in here we gotta screw around. So that is, well, that's the current plan. Basically we're gonna almost latch it and weld it. That's gonna be the situation. Everything in here will fit nicely. And once we get in there, then we can start messing with the post. In other vehicles, I've always made the post fit first, but I think this one I'm gonna kind of make the panel fit, and then we'll just get the structure in from the backside. We want the look, make sure it looks cool. So Mur stopped by, as always, telling me I was doing a fantastic job and I'm an idiot for chopping up a mint 4-door, as per usual. Anyways, so we got the door skinned, and I did trim this section off because this we're gonna have to well, we're gonna have to do something with. Anyway, now I don't know if anyone's noticed or not yet, we haven't pulled a tape measure out of the toolbox yet. We're not gonna start now. So what I've done, I've trimmed it all to kind of fit. Gentle. Oh, what have I done here? There we go. Oh. There we go. So we have it kind of where we want it. Now this is where there's always an issue. This is slightly different than on a 2-door, but we'll go ahead and fill that full of weld and fiberglass. Now, we want to make sure the door is as far back as it'll go, because we're going to have to weld that gap. So you want that pretty tight. This is a pretty good power stance I have. We're going to take our marker. We're going to mark the door on the inside ish. And this should give us a pretty close measurement. Oh yeah, as to where we're going to cut to match this flow of the door. Now, I may go a little bit bigger than that to start, because I'd rather cut twice than cut once and weld twice when I screw it up. So we'll get this back on the stand, get it trimmed up, and it should be able to kind of fit into place pretty nice. So the door is trimmed. Now we're going to do the opposite. We're going to put this door on first, or in first, or we're going to call it quarter panel patch at this point. In first, then we'll close the door on it, and we're pretty darn good. Now, I did grind a little bit on the car and a little bit on the door, so we're going to tack this thing into place. Take a step back. Well, you know what I should have done though is probably grounded the welder. Don't fall. So we're gonna tack it in place, take a step back and see what this is all about. I'm thinking it's a pretty good success. So we're slowly but surely working our way into it. Now, this is where this cut becomes real important. This is essentially you're making your door gap. So you gotta be aware of those things. So I think I'll take my time, mark like here is perfect. We don't want any more than that. It gets a little tight up there. Not bad, and then just around here gets a little tight as well. So just do a little bit more, but it's pretty good. Now, we have a big gap at the bottom, which is always, in these 4-doors, I always notice we have a gap, which means we have a door. There's only so much you can do there. The door's meant to have a gap around it. So by pushing the door up and back, we tighten up this gap as much as we can, and we tighten up this gap as much as we can. Obviously, that's not a factory door gap. So when we make our own gap, we lose down there. But when you do the math, that's the smallest amount of screwing around and the least amount you're gonna see. So we'll get that. I'm gonna trim this door real quick. Then we're gonna pull this piece out, and we're gonna have to make this fit in there somehow, which I don't think will be a lot of work. It looks like it's pretty simple. It just fits on the back side of kind of whatever we have left. So I'll probably just peel some of this rubber off, and we'll be golden. So we now have a pretty decent little door gap. Everything is good there, and obviously this is no structure, but it all wants to just fit. I did do a little bit of trimming of this, just got the old piece of door off, and I took just a little section of this rubber, window molding out. Now, I did check this out beforehand. Seems like the window frame on the back side is thicker than the front, but it does match the top, which I think is kind of how it is on all those cars. So this might be the only part. I haven't seen it up close. It's hard to see on the internet. When you really zoom in, everything gets a little blurry. This may need to be just a small bit shorter, which we could do, but honestly, I don't think it's gonna make a difference. So that's kind of gonna go like that. Now, you can see where the rust line is. It was a pretty flat piece. If we try and put it in flat, see how it wants to go up. This really shows the slope in the door. We have to go back. So we'll kind of get that about where we want it there. And then I'm just gonna have to mark this piece, and we'll trim it to fit in there. Now, I've done this a few different ways, and I always feel it's easiest to cut in the center versus like right at the end or something like that. That way you're taking the meat out of the straightest part versus on a curve or at the end or whatever you want to do. It's the easiest to join, in my mind anyways. So we'll get this marked up, cut, and we'll bring it back. We'll start tacking it all together. So I trimmed my piece up. I took, it must be on the ground. Oh, I think 6 inches what you had to take out of it, of the whole door and stuff. So let's see if I can get it out of. That'll fit kind of like that. Now at the end of the day, this is where we're gonna set our door gap up there. So I want it to be fairly tight. So we'll give this a quick zap. Oh, I missed it. Damn it. This is the part that's super crucial, that we really, 15 measurements and all sorts of stuff here. We're not just eyeballing it. Oh. I got the welder set too high, but I'm committed. Okay. Let's turn this down a scotch. Now this, get the door shut. Probably about like that. Looks straight-ish. What's going on? Stupid paint. There we go. Two-door, complete, we're all done. Let's go cruising. So, we have a two-door. Now essentially this is like a race car. There's absolutely no structure to it. Obviously there's no latch, there's no post. So it's just the look on the outside. The latch is actually different on a two-door and a four-door by the looks of it. And I don't have one two-door latch. This thing came bare bones. So, do some modifying to do with that. I think tomorrow we're going to tackle the post. And see if we can get it kind of close and see if I can modify that latch. It'd be nice to have the post in and have it latching and then finish off the video. Tonight, before I go in, I'll probably put another hour in, I'm just going to weld this out. So it's a little bit more sturdy. We literally have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tack welds holding this whole panel on, which is pretty minimal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a few more in at the top here. Now we got this sizable gap. It's in the bottom, so what I do here is I'm just going to take a little bit of welding rod, TIG rod, and if you kind of put it in there, I'm going to show. You end up just kind of splitting the difference, and we'll have a bit of gaps. We'll tack that there, and then you can kind of go up to the top. So you're filling a void. It won't be as bad. Whatever. We're going to make it in there. We're going to fill it full of fiberglass anyways. I'll put a few more on the side, and we'll just put a few more at the bottom, and then that's it for tonight. And then I'll see you tomorrow. We're trying to make this post fit, which that'll be interesting. In worst case, we'll put like a bathroom door lock on it. Call her a day. See you tomorrow. Okay, next day. I actually ran out of welding wire last night, so I didn't get a whole lot done. I just kind of started getting this in. So you get started, just kind of whacking it with a hammer, and you weld that in there. I got enough that it's she's pretty steady. I'm not too worried about it. Now what I did do is I stripped apart that front door. Hopefully it doesn't get washed out in the camera. And I took out the latch assembly. Well, the whole latch assembly is quite a bit taller. Right where this hole is actually where the top threaded piece would be on a two-door. So, I don't know if we can take this apart and modify it. I did check. They do sell a brand new OER. It's like 60 bucks for a hood or for a proper latch. So I think we might just go down that road. We'll break the bank. Up next, I think we're going to split this post in two. We're going to split the top bit, kind of make it fit in there, because that's going to be one angle. And then as you can see, the post has to do something goofy down there. And on the four door, it's lean quite a far back. We can kind of do whatever once it's in two pieces. Now, the striker, again, is going to be too low. On the two door, it'll be up here. It'll also be, straight up and down and stuff. But this goes into just a captured nut on the back. So we'll probably end up cutting in there, or whatever we got to cut out of it. We'll have to realign it and then just weld that piece back in. It'll all be hidden by trim and whatnot. Anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant. So I think that's the next step, is just give something for the top of the door to sandwich between. So as you can see in here, we got a gap. So that we'll fill that in, and we should be good. So that'll be a start, and we'll probably just weld it right to the back door, which is now the quarter, or whatever you want to call it. So we'll slide up in there, rip all this junk out, get up in there, get that sturdy, get it closing, then we'll figure out how we're going to fit the post in. May have to be a little bit more trimming of this out. I'm not too sure yet, and I should probably actually box this in before I start plating right over it. But that's the plan for today. We'll get it all kind of finished up, and then the only thing we won't have is able to latch it, but we'll have a pretty good idea of what we're going to have to do. So I've jumped ahead a little bit. Now this is where things get a little, I won't say complicated, but there's a lot of wing in it. We're winging the hell out of it. So I've got this piece all in and kind of welded up, so it's all just kind of rough, but it gives it all the strength. So this looks good. This is fantastic. Look at that, that'll look nice. Gap's the same. Got a place for the door to stop. the weather strip. I'll have a place to go. Like that's sweet. I finished up down here. Well, I didn't quite finish up. I just welded in the back piece. I didn't know where it'd be working. So we got that in. As it turns out, the post is so far back, it's irrelevant. Now here's the problem we run into. This post, I've obviously split it in two. It's got quite a lean forward. If you see the back, we're actually not even touching anything. So to get in there, that's why this isn't fully welded. There's one tack there, and this will fold out and have all sorts of working room in there. But we're gonna have to plate that down to the rocker. It'll be golden. Oh, by the way, these rockers are absolutely mint. When I was in there, oh man, it was nice. Anyway, so now the post itself is straight. So if you look here, hopefully there's enough light. Actually, I should do this. But you can see the door. It'll be good. Unfortunately, we're one bolt hole out-ish for the striker. So if I put the striker back in just real quick, it has to kind of go up maybe an inch or so. So you can see just how close we are. It's unfortunate, so not quite gonna work, but what I can probably do is just oblong this hole and we can bring that up, and really it wants to be kind of right there, or drill a hole, weld something. We'll figure that out down the road. So this is in and it's sturdy-ish. I do have it kind of ugly welded down there and a couple ugly welds right there. Now the problem we have to do is either one of two things. Slice this post and lean it forward and then hope it joins up there, which is not gonna be great. Then we gotta reroute the door. And my concern with that is we're starting to cut this post. This is kind of structural. Be nice to have this in there for a little bit more sturdiness. Or B, I have this piece which I cut out. That's how much of the post I cut because there was so much lean. If I can modify this, it kind of has the same shape. And I can have it go in, you know, I don't know, it's hard to show. It'll kind of look like that, but be obviously a wedge shape. So I think that's what I'm going to work on. And then after we get that all in, we should be kind of golden. Once the post is in, that'll be another video. We'll then weld in just some filler material, kind of something like, well, that's a terrible size, but something like that to that, and no one will ever know the difference. It'll look just fine in there. So I'm gonna putzky around with this for probably an hour, and hopefully it'll work out and look okay. Door jambs always look funny. We just gotta make sure it looks the right kind of funny. All right. So before I go too much further, I thought I'd just kind of show you. So we have 3 separate pieces, which I made into a little wedge, which will go down. I got all the weld those together, weld them all solid the whole way around. Now again, the nice part is we're going a piece of metal. Once we have this in there, that's all you're ever really gonna see. So doesn't have to be overly nice, should be just fine. I double checked and made sure that the door shut around it. No issues. So we're gonna dial the welder up to 11 and let it rip. It looks goofy, but tell me what your door jamb looks like. Without looking, it probably looks just the same. All right, so about an hour later, and this is where, again, this is just all about how your eye is. I mean, we have it nice and strong. That's the main issue, but so that's what it looks like. It's all kind of welded. It's a little ugly up in there, but again, you ain't gonna see that. I did trim this down just so it kind of has the flow to it and all that. Look at that, we're all welded in. Nice, look at that. We ain't going nowhere. So we're gonna leave it here. There's still lots to do, but you know what I wanna do before I go too much further is I wanna get that latch. So I'm gonna get on the old internet, we'll get that ordered up, and we'll get that taken care of. So I want that in there before we go any further. Because once you get everything all plated and bolted in and stuff, at this point right now, even though I did a lot of work in here, we only got to zip out a little bit at the top and a little bit at the bottom. This whole post will come right out. You know, obviously a little bit of screwing around. So we can always come back out, do whatever we have to do on the inside, and then put it back in. I don't think I'll have to, but I just want to make sure I don't go any further. So up next, other side. But I started yesterday at around noon, probably put in 5 or 6 hours, and probably another 2 or 3 today. So I don't know, I bet if you had all the parts and all that, you'd have this thing basically dialed in 10 hours of work. One long day, you can accomplish it. Tri-5s, I always heard guys like a 2-door in a weekend. So this is a little more in-depth than a Tri-5 Chevy for sure, but very doable. And honestly, I think it has the correct look. The only issue we're gonna have is glass. But yeah, we'll deal with that when we get there. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Hopefully you guys like 2 doors. Currently have a 3-door. It ain't staying a 3-door. I know everyone's going to comment that. I hate the way that crap looks. I want a hot rod. So, comment below. Let me know what you think. Subscribe to the channel and tell me how much you like 66 Chevy 2-door Biscayne. Soon to be big block.